Yes, a little bit, Julian, but I think it can work. Hi, Lydia. Welcome from Greece.
Hello. Hello.
So the streaming is starting. So please disconnect your...
Hello from Turkey. My name is Tamer. Please ask everybody to unmute. Ask everybody.
So welcome everybody to the launch event of the SDSN Mediterranean Report 2020. I'm glad to moderate this launch event, and I thank you very much all the speakers, all the SDSN Med partners, all those who are attending online. I briefly run through the agenda of this event, and after that I will call all the speakers to intervene in the agenda, asking them to turn on their microphone and their camera and to respect the time in order to respect all the times of our agenda that we have planned. So we start with the institutional remarks from Angelo Riccaboni, Chair of SDSN Mediterranean, and Nasser Kamel, Secretary General of the Union for Mediterranean. Then we have the intervention of Paolo Glisenti, Commissioner General for Italy's participation in Expo 2020 Dubai. Dubai 2020 is the main global event after the pandemic planned for the 2021, with a particular attention to sustainability and, among the others, to the Mediterranean region. After that, at 3:30, we have the presentation of the report by Riccardo Pulzelli. At 3:45, we have a discussion on the report with Mediterranean hubs and MED institution. We have the intervention by Almat Sabadi from UFM, Tamera Takabarut from SDSN Turkey, Phoebe Konduri from SDSN Greece, Julien Letellier from UNEP MAP, and Dr. Marculli, co-chair of SDSN Cyprus. At the end, at 4:15, we have the final remarks by Professor Jeffrey Sax, President of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So welcome again, and thanks to all the speakers, the partners, and those who are attending this event online. The floor is for Professor Angelo Riccaboni, Chair of SDSN. I please all the others to turn off their cameras and their computer, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simone. Good morning and good afternoon to distinguished speakers and the participants to this event organized for the launch of the 2020 report on sustainable development in the Mediterranean, prepared by SDSN Mediterranean. As many of you probably know, SDSN Med is the regional network of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, promoted by the United Nations and led by Jeffrey Sax from Columbia University, to valorize the role of research, innovation, and education to implement Agenda 2030. And we all know, especially in these times, how important competence and knowledge are for our present and our future. It is of great pleasure for me to launch the second edition of the MED report with the presence of the Secretary General of the Union for the Mediterranean, His Excellency Nasser Kamel. The Union for the Mediterranean is a pivotal institution for the promotion of cooperation and dialogue in the Mediterranean area, and a very active player in several domains such as research, innovation, water, environment, education, employability, energy, gender issue. In the last few years, I have been working close with Nasser and UFM in the field of sustainable food systems. And I take this opportunity to thank him for his continued support and his leadership. At this event, I also welcome the presence of Commissioner General for Italy's participation in Expo Dubai 2020, Paolo Glisenti, which confirms the importance of international events of cultural and science diplomacy as an opportunity for promoting more sustainable, resilient, and prosperous Mediterranean societies. I would also like to acknowledge the contribution to the SDSN Med activities given by representatives of SDSN national centers, and in particular Cyprus, France, Greece, Italy, Spain, and Turkey. And the presence here today with us of the UNEP MEP representative who will enrich the debate about the report. I'm sure that we all share the view that collaboration is key to tackle the environmental, health, and social challenges in front of our countries in terms of climate change, well-being, excessive exploitation of natural resources, high unemployment, social and gender inequalities, incorrect dietary habits. And in these difficult times, more than ever, we realize that Agenda 2030 is the most effective framework within which to cooperate and build back better. We need to accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2030, and in order to accelerate such implementation, transformation is a key concept. We need radical changes. We need to transform our social, job, education, food, environmental, energy systems. And precisely on this concept, on the concept of transformation, we have prepared our report. SDSM Med is very keen on promoting transformations, acting as a social policy interface in favor of institutions, decision makers, businesses, and civil society. And proposing in this report not only analysis, which is very important, and we will hear from Riccardo Pusselli, which are the results of our analysis, but Riccardo also will mention policies and actions to achieve the SDGs. We need to be concrete. We need to propose actions. We need to promote actions. I conclude to say how honored I am to pursue such endeavor in collaboration with Professor Jeffrey Sax, which has inspired the Agenda 2030 and will conclude our debate today. Thank you very much, Sax, for your leadership and vision. Before giving the floor back, I would like to thank Riccardo Pusselli, Simone Cresti, Massimo Gigliotti, Guido Bellini, Stefania Toraldo, and Barbara Di Paolo, and all the staff of Santa Clara Lab for their contributions to the report. And now, the floor back to Simone. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Riccaboni. Now the floor is for the Secretary General of Union for the Mediterranean, Nasser Kamel. The floor is for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your very capable handling and management of our session today. Ladies and gentlemen, a good afternoon to all of you. And a world of thanks to my very dear friend and partner, Angelo Riccaboni, of course, chair of the Mediterranean Sustainable Development Solution Network. But for me, he is the co-chair of PRIMA, a very dear initiative and project that fits and represents and epitomizes what we stand for at UFM. I'd like also to extend a word of thanks to Professor Jeffrey Sax, President of the Sustainable Development Solution Network. The Union for the Mediterranean has recognized the groundbreaking nature of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals since their approval. It has been proactively working hard to support their implementation in the Mediterranean region at political, dialogue, and project levels. We see the SDGs as a guarantee for the coherence of regional positive action. Ladies and gentlemen, now we all understand this is a watershed year. The pandemic has accelerated or completely altered the course of different mechanics happening in our world and in our region. In the span of few months, COVID-19 has pushed us into unprecedented crisis. The OECD estimates that each month of confinement there will be a loss of nearly 2% in annual GDP growth, and that the economic impact alone is now expected to be worse than the 2000 economic recession. The pandemic has reconfirmed that the system or systems on which we depend are not only increasingly interdependent, but also growingly vulnerable. This is a difficult challenge, but also an opportunity. An opportunity for increasing resilience and future growth in our region, notably by implementing, of course, the SDGs. Yet, in order to verify the degree of the achievement of the SDGs so far, we need to count with solid data from reputable sources, aggregated at regional level. So the analysis done by SDSN MED in this report is really fundamental for supporting policymakers and institutions in charting their path towards the 2030 and, I hope, beyond that. Aggregated data further help us focus our action, and to give a few examples, for instance, thanks to the MEDEC report supported by the UFM, we know that the rise of temperature in our Mediterranean basin is progressing 20% faster than the global average across our region. Therefore, the health and wealth threat multiplier represented by climate change is especially intense in our region. We also know, thanks to science, that the demand for water, food, and energy is increasing due to population growth and economic development. It is estimated that by the year 2050, we need 50% more water, 60% more food, and 80% more energy on a global level. Hence, we have to work on all of these sectors through a nexus of economic, social framework, and science-based. And this is where the Union for the Mediterranean and PRIMA comes in. Since 2017, we at the UFM Secretariat have specifically referred to the UN SDG as indicators on our impact of our activity. We tend to call ourselves the regional dimension of the SDG. Indeed, the 17th SDG, Partnerships for the Goals, is a guiding star that is particularly congenial to our work at UFM. We seek to come together through organizing political expert dialogue platforms and developing strong network of like-minded partners. Research also and innovation are also key in our endeavors. Let's take the example of the ongoing initiatives such as PRIMA, headed by you, my dear Ricardo, which deals with many points raised by our SDGs, such as water scarcity, a particularly difficult challenge in a region with only 2.5 or 3%, if I'm not mistaken, of the world resources of fresh water, the environment, and of course the climate emergency that we are facing all today, and more specifically facing more in our region. This year, we all celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Barcelona process, which launched as an unprecedented framework of dialogue on the basis of equal footing between the north and the south of our Mare Nostrum. It is therefore an appropriate moment to reflect on the factors that help us forge ever stronger bonds among the two shores of the Mediterranean Sea through concrete action. We're going to celebrate this anniversary on the 27th of November. Our 42 member states will meet in the UFM Regional Forum to assess the state of our region and define our way forward. The report you are representing today is definitely going to help us visualize the challenges ahead and call us and everyone else and all stakeholders in the region for joint common action in terms of achieving those goals. And I want to tell you, not only tell you, but assure you that you can count on the UFM to support efforts directed at achieving the SDGs in the Mediterranean region, and therefore globally. Because as the convenient aphorism goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. Thank you very much for having me with you today. It's a great honor, and the floor is yours.
So thank you very much to you, to FM, also for the availability you demonstrate during these last words. And now I ask to Dr. Paolo Glisenti, Commissioner General for Italy's participation in Expo 2020 Dubai, to take the floor.
Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you at this important event to launch the 2020 MED report. And I'm also happy to emphasize the importance of Expo 2020 next year, because not only is going to be the first global event after the pandemic, but it's going to mark the beginning of the last mile to the 2030 deadline of the agenda of the SDGs. So it's going to be a very crucial turning point for multilateral cooperation, international cooperation towards the achievement of the SDGs. And thanks to the support of Angelo Riccaboni and his team, Italy is ready to present to the world audience, which will connect and gather in Dubai next year, the best innovative and sustainable practices in the Mediterranean region for the efficient use of water resources in agriculture, for the highest quality, safety, and security of food products, for the new productive opportunities in arid and deserted soils provided by precision agriculture. At Expo Dubai, Italy and Prima will champion and showcase the best of the 27 calls which have been selected by Prima this year in its 2018-2028 decennial program. These are projects, it is important to say, these are all projects developed with the participation and the scientific contribution of Mediterranean universities and research centers. At the first World Exposition to be held in the Middle East, North Africa, Southeast Asia region, I think it will be an extraordinary opportunity to demonstrate how much innovation and sustainability in the part of the world most seriously suffering the effects of climate changes, loss of water resources, urban expansion, and demographic growth can be today generated in a collaborative, multidisciplinary, multi-sectorial, and multi-countries approach. I think in this sense that Dubai will give us a sign of hope in our troubled times to look at sustainability and innovation as part of a doable, achievable worldwide agenda. And I thank you again for having me here to listen to your report and to your remarks, which will inspire us and inspire our participation in Expo Dubai. The floor is yours, Simone.
So thank you to Paolo Glisenti. We join the global hope for the future. And now it's the turn of Riccardo Pulzelli. And Riccardo, let us know which is the situation in the Mediterranean. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I guess you can see the video and my presentation, and also you can hear my voice. Otherwise, please let me know. I will briefly present contents of the Sustainable Development in the Mediterranean report, and this is the second edition of this report that I had the opportunity to write together with co-authors on behalf of the SN Mediterranean, that is hosted by the Santa Chiara Lab at the University of Siena. The report is based on results from the Sustainable Development Report 2020, the World Edition. We took most of the indicators and dashboards from this report, but also we provided additional information regarding the dynamics within such a complex and complicated environment. The Mediterranean region is a complex environment, including 24 countries that of course share one common sea, but at the same time they belong three different continents, and also there are many differences in terms of economy, society, culture, environment. Also, you know that the Mediterranean region is the most sensible region in the world to climate change after the Arctic, and this can also provide additional problems. Based on the observations made through the indicators, we could anyhow highlight or identify 4 macro areas, not based on political reasons, but just on sort of homogeneous behaviors that are Europe West, Europe East, Middle East, and North Africa, and that will help us to support our storytelling throughout the entire report. I will show you this picture. This is the dashboard concerning the SDGs in the Mediterranean countries. First of all, I will say that the general SDG index of the Mediterranean is 73.5. This value means that the Mediterranean region is at 73% in the way towards the SDGs. And as you can see in the picture, I will not go into details, but if you look at the picture at a glance, you will see that there are just a few green lights, and most of the lights are yellow, orange, and red. This means that there is still much to do to achieve the SDGs in the Mediterranean. And also, if we check the trends in the SDG index, you can see that there are a few green arrows, that means positive trends, and many stagnant or even decreasing trends. Based on the observation of the results, on the analysis, we could highlight a few hotspots concerning the Mediterranean region. We can say that considering the average incomes per family, almost 50 million people in the Mediterranean are at risk of poverty, including 27 million Europeans. Women's rights and opportunities for women emancipation must be improved. If we consider rates of participation in the labor force, well, these are quite low, but also it's even lower, the participation of women in political activities, down to 18% in the Middle East and North Africa. And also women in leading positions, I mean in a position of top managers in private companies and enterprises, is less than 5%. The job market is stagnant. The unemployment rate in general in the Mediterranean is around 11%. Also, the number of NEET is increasing. There are many young people that are not in training and are not looking for a job, and this is quite alarming. This is almost 20% of youths in the Mediterranean. Also, food habits are going in a wrong direction. We are in the place of the Mediterranean diet, but the obesity affects 26% of the Mediterranean population, up to 35% in some countries of the Middle East. And sustainable agriculture is really an important goal to achieve, considering that most of the agricultural practices in the Mediterranean are based on intensive agriculture. Water management is also an issue, especially considering the sensitivity to climate change. Some countries in North Africa and the Middle East are going towards a condition of water scarcity that is less than 500 cubic meters per capita, and we should avoid this situation, of course. Water quality is also a problem, considering that less than 50% of water used in the Mediterranean is released into the environment without any treatment. And air quality can be a problem, considering that 70% of the Mediterranean population live in cities and is exposed to pollution, of course. In terms of sustainable energy, the European trends are very good, of course, but we should improve these trends also in the other Mediterranean countries, as well as investments in research and innovation. Fisheries is based on unsustainable practices. Aquaculture can be an opportunity to manage the fish stock in a sustainable way, if well managed, of course. And environmental protection is as well quite important, both in lands and marine areas. Well, we structured the report on the 6 transformation frameworks suggested by Jeffrey Sax in the previous report, but also in a famous paper published on the scientific journal Nature. The 6 transformations framework is just an operative framework. The idea was to make it easier to implement concrete actions towards the achievement of the SDGs. And what we did was to identify 6 centers of excellence in the Mediterranean with a high expertise in some specific topics, in order to let them cooperate to achieve this transformation. There is one center, one Mediterranean hub per each transformation. And the report was used to start this cooperation, and that will keep going in the next future, even more intense. About these transformations, the report is structured based on this framework, and there is one chapter per each transformation. And the transformation are described based on the results of the indicators that are related to different goals, of course. But in particular, we could highlight and visualize specific challenges for each transformation that we have to face in the next future. So you will find for each transformation around 10 main challenges that we have to urgently manage in the next future. And the transformations are education and gender inequality, health, well-being and demography, energy decarbonization and sustainable industry. I will show you, for example, in the transformation 4, sustainable food, land, water and oceans. For this transformation, the Sdgs and Mediterranean is in charge. I will just give you a short example. In terms of food habits, for example, this is one of the challenges we highlighted. The reference indicators are the prevalence of obesity and the consumption of food, the diets that are used in the Mediterranean. In terms of sustainable agriculture, we deal with the food self-sufficiency of countries and the release of nutrients into the environment. In terms of water management and water quality, for example, we consider the rate of renewability of water resources, but also accessibility to water services and water treatment. In terms of environmental protection, we consider the enlargement and enforcement of protected area in the Mediterranean. So this is an example of how we structured the report and the kind of information that you will find in the report. The transformation 5 is about sustainable cities and community. The transformation on digital revolution has much to do with all the other transformations, of course. The last part of the report is about the concrete actions that we wanted to suggest through a sort of roadmap, including 150, let's say, policies, but we also can call them recommendations. These recommendations are classified into different categories. For example, governments and public authorities can operate to release new regulations and control protocols, as well as new practices of governance. In this case, for example, we deal with sectoral planning. Let's think to the urban planning for decarbonization, or programs for waste management and resource management, for mobility, sustainable mobility, or biodiversity. Also, governments are very important to promote incentive schemes to promote innovation towards sustainability, but also in this case, companies and private enterprises play an important role. For example, public-private initiatives are desirable to improve innovation in this sense.
Ricardo,
Yes.
should I ask you to go toward the conclusion, please?
Of course, it's the last slide. Then, educational programs are very important. Knowledge not only addressed to young students, but also in terms of knowledge transfer to enterprises and practitioners that have to change their mission towards sustainability as a leverage for market. Stakeholders engagement is important for the role can be played by the scientific community. Digital transformation is important, as well as market that can be driven by the consumers and their choices. International partnership is very, very important, of course, and we are looking for not a gradual progress, but deep transformations. And the final goal is, as said in the foreword of the report, to finally close the gap between rhetoric and action. I'm very proud of this outstanding ownership, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Ricardo. The picture you showed us about the Mediterranean is really complex, but at the same time, really interesting. Now I ask to our speakers of next panel, discussion panel, with Med Hubs and Med Institution to turn on their cameras. So Alomat Abadi from UFM, Tamer Atabarut from SDSN Turkey, Phoebe Konduri from SDSN Greece, Julien Letellier from UNEP MAP, and Dr. Marculli, co-chair of SDSN Cyprus. All of you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Eratu Marculli, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know if you can see me because I registered very late. So I don't know if I'm logged in properly, but I can hear all of you. I can see all of you. I don't know if you're able to see me.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Now I leave the floor for the first intervention to Alomat Abadi from UFM. I thank you to stay within 5-6 minutes each of intervention. I apologize now to jump into your speech when the time is finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simone. Thank you very much for this very, very informative presentation of the report. We are working in parallel with you, as you know, everybody from WIMA, from all SDS and Mediterranean, in order to build synergy with the Union for the Mediterranean Water Strategy. As everybody knows that the Union for the Mediterranean water sector also had endorsed by the UFM member state since 2017 onward, what we call it a living document, which we call it the UFM Water Policy Framework of Action 2030, which is absolutely a policy recommendation for the region, agreed and endorsed by the 42 member states of the Union for the Mediterranean, that the way that our member states see that they will contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. This great work of Sustainable Development Goal came on time. 2020 showed that we still need to work on building partnership, building synergy in order to overcome our challenges when it comes to the water sector. Because according to the World Bank publication, OECD, and all other lead international organizations and development agencies working into sustaining the economic and social life of the citizen in the Mediterranean or globally, they are emphasizing on the fact that we have to tap over the way how we manage our water sector. The 6 transformational mentioned here are very essential, are in line with our policies recommendation that the 42 member states are doing either at national or local, sub-regional and regional and globally in order to advance better socio-economic reality for our citizen in the Mediterranean. The issue in the UFM member state and recently from the EU UFM Water Business Forum held in Cairo, hybrid during the period of 18 to 22 of October 2020. We had also brought some thoughts that are in line with your recommendation, that in order to fix the issues, we need to look at the governance aspect. We have to look after the way how we regulate the water sector as well as other sector in order to bolster economic development and to invite different segments of civil society into the water governance as well as into the water management. Here, when I talk about the civil society segments, we have to always put at the first of the list the woman and the role of the gender in the water management and in the water governance. Also, the most important recommendation that I saw in this report, which is how to build nexus with the business opportunity, how to make the water sector a very inevitable sector in order to bring the private actors. Here, when it comes to the private actors, I'm not talking about the big investment, the big infrastructure. Luckily, our member state had brought those big investors into the water management when it comes to the desalination, when it comes to the wastewater treatment plants, but this based on contractual arrangement. Our observation from the Union for the Mediterranean and policy recommendation is to more concretize this process of engaging the private sector by putting a very good regulatory framework that regulate their roles and guarantee affordable services and revenue line for the private actors. The second part that the UFM Secretariat working on under the leadership of His Excellency Nasser Kamel, as he said, I would like to quote him, how to make the Mediterranean an entrepreneurial environment to make more opportunity for young people in order to contribute to different sectors, and the water to achieve the SDGs number 6 and its associate like 7, energy, 14, 13, and 14, with the specific focus on the climate action, SDG number 13. We have to work together in order to build partnership and enabling environment to bring young people to invest and to start their jobs out of these 4 important sectors. And to be frank, the only comments that I am putting on this report, which is I hope that next version will consider a new transformation, which is the issue related to policies and the nexus. So we believe at the Union for the Mediterranean, and this is what the UFM water policy framework about, is to building nexus between the 4 sectors: water, energy, food, ecosystem nexus. Those are linking together 4 up to 6 SDGs like 6, 7, 14, 15, 2, and 13. And I hope that we will consider this transformation on policies, because it's very important to send it to the local level and to invite our member state in order to work on the whole government approach that will enable more coordinated approach at national level, that will yield to more coordinated approach at regional level, that will yield to a more comprehensive coordinated approach at a global level. With this, I would like to send the floor back to Simon, and thank you very much all for hearing us also. Thank you.
Thank you, Almotats, for this interesting thought about Nexus. And the turn is for Ömer Akbarut, Chair of SDSN Turkey. The floor is yours. Sorry, could you unmute? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now we can hear you.
First of all, I would like to thank Angelo and his team for their invaluable efforts for the preparation of this report. As UNSDSN Turkey, we are very happy to contribute to this report as the lead of the transformation of sustainable cities and communities. And we are believing in the power of solidarity, and we would like to work much more in collaboration for sustainability in our common home, Mediterranean Basin. In the report, a set of indicators has been selected as the most relevant to report on current state, highlight the hotspots, and track the progress towards the fifth transformation. This aims to make cities economically productive, socially inclusive, and environmentally sustainable. As a guideline to accomplish the transformation, the list of challenges for policies and strategies is also given in the report, as Ricardo stated. And we all know that the Mediterranean Basin is one of the most fragile regions in the world in terms of climate change and the environment. The evaluation reports of the IPCC foresee that the general temperature increase in the Mediterranean Basin could reach 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. The drought will be felt in white regions, and the number of extremely hot days and hot air waves will going to be increased, and particularly in the central sections, it will be much more severe impacts. So cities need to increase their resilience against the climate change and extreme weather events. The policies should be developed and implemented, such as disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and human security. The possible effects of climate change at regional scale in the Mediterranean Basin would be able to amplify the existing scarcity and allocation problems also. In this aspect, this will worsen the current conflicts among water users that are already observed as a result of intensive anthropogenic activities in the Mediterranean. Turkey tried to establish policies to prevent the problems of food, water, and energy security and influx of migrants in the last decade. However, the number of climate-induced crises has been increasing in Turkey. In the last 20 years, the crisis increased sixfold compared to the period of 1995 to 2000. So the increase in the frequency and intensity of natural disasters pose a serious threat to our cities in Turkey, and they are hitting much more cities in Turkey in terms of economic, social, and environmental impacts. As a policy entrepreneur, UNSDSN Turkey has initiated an intensive action about the transformation of sustainable cities and communication at the level of municipalities. So last year, we organized a 3-day-long Cities for Climate workshop to raise the awareness on climate action and build capacity of municipality staff on preparing sustainable energy and climate action plans. At the last day of the workshop, the representatives of big 24 Turkish municipalities declared their intent to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2030. And with the Cities for Climate Action Declaration was announced to the public. The declaration highlights that for a fair, equitable, and sustainable future, local leaders must take concrete steps against the climate crisis. So we are continuing to work on detailed education programs, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it compelled us to change the format of education, and now we are much more active and efficient in the online courses. So we just completed the Sustainable Cities and Climate Change online training, and now there's another program is ongoing, how to achieve SDGs in Turkish municipalities has been ongoing, as I told. So in the recent years also, the Turkey has started to prioritize the waste management over the concerns of rising environmental damage with the municipalities responsible for waste collection, upgrading their collection systems, but also in order to promote their recycling activities. And as SDSN Turkey, we strongly support the Turkish zero waste policy. And we are the part of the advisory board of this zero waste policy in Turkey. So thanks to the project, tons of plastics and recyclables are recovered, and they were not access to the sea. I just remember that in 1990s, I was a part of a report which was just prepared by the World Health Organization to just determine the land-based pollution of the Mediterranean. And it was huge. It was huge. So we have to control our waste, and we have to recycle, reuse, and waste minimization and elimination to get the target of zero waste policy. As SDSN Turkey, we are also actively working with the pilot municipalities for developing SDG City Index and preparing their voluntary local reviews. And we believe in partnership and keeping the motto "No one behind," and working in collaboration with the government, the unions of municipalities, some international organizations like the UNDP Turkish chapter, UCLG, MEVA, and all stakeholders. So we have to give hand to hand to have a better Mediterranean. So we have to combat against this climate risks, and also we have to achieve those SDGs. We have to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tamera Batabarut. And now I ask you, Professor Phoebe Konduri, from as co-chair of SDSN Greece, to intervene. Phoebe, thank you for your intervention. The floor is yours. Could you unmute?
Yes, I've managed to figure out the Italian version of unmute. So Simon, thank you very much for having me here. It is always a pleasure to participate in the launching of this very important report that SDSN Med is putting together. It's now a valuable reference point for our network, but also for the whole of the Mediterranean region, for the European community, and globally. This is an important report, not just because it allows us to have a measurement of progress with regards to the SDGs in the Mediterranean region, and it is important to be able to measure progress in detail, because only by measuring we can identify the needs, the gaps, the needed interventions in order to make progress. It is important, especially important, because the report refers to a region that is particularly vulnerable with regards to climate change, but also is vulnerable geopolitically. So this report does not only document where we stand with regards to the transition to sustainability, but it also documents explicitly the need for collaboration, partnership, and solidarity between all the member states across the Mediterranean. It is an important report, especially now with COVID-19, because it gives us a documentation of where we have been before COVID, and we know how we need to reboot and recover our economies after the pandemic. One of the major contributions of SDSN and Greece is the report that we are putting together, and our report will definitely embrace the your report on SDGs in the Mediterranean, and as well the SDSN European report. Our report is focused on the European Green Deal and identifying pathways for the joint implementation of the European Green Deal, the SDGs, the European semester process recommendations, and not only identifying technological and investment pathways towards this joint implementation, but also identifying the financial portfolios that will support this implementation. And these portfolios will derive from the European Union Enhanced Multi-Annual Financial Framework that incorporates the Recovery and Resilience Fund, that is the EU Next Generation, and of course the budget of the European Green Deal. It is important that you are presenting the Mediterranean aspect of this recovery, because Europe has recently announced that Africa is one important priority. So the collaboration between Europe and Africa and across the Mediterranean basin is a focal point now in the European Commission. In addition to the European Green Deal report that UNSDSN Greece is putting together, and this report is producing results of green and digital pathways for each and every of the 27 countries in the European Union, we will also incorporate an annex deriving from your report that integrates the Mediterranean aspect of the story. And we are doing the same in the Lancet Commission for the COVID-19. I am co-chairing the task force on green recovery, jobs-based green recovery, which identifies as our pathway to recovery that this pathway needs to be based on the sustainable and inclusive economies based on the SDGs and the Paris Climate Agreement. It identifies a public investment should be oriented towards sustainable industries and the digital economy, and should spur complementary private investments. And of course, a major goal of the recovery should be an unprecedented commitment to reskilling and upskilling of people, including the skills to prepare workers for the digital economy. So what we are proposing for Europe, what we are proposing for the Mediterranean, we are proposing for the whole world, of course, keeping in mind the specificities of each different country and continent. With regards to your report, we are supporting the industry decarbonization transformation, one of the 6 transformations. And of course, you know that the European Commission has lately announced an increased ambition for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions On the 17th of September, the president of the commission announced that the target is increasing from 40% to 55%, to a target of 55% decrease in greenhouse gas emission. This means just for Europe, a revision of the national energy and climate path, which will cost 350 billion per year. So it's a big challenge. The money at the moment out there financed by national debt. The debt crisis is another issue that is over Europe and over the world this time, given that the pandemic is worldwide. But this is something we need to handle in a spirit of solidarity, I think. And Europe and the Western world, I'm finishing. And Europe and the Western world should show solidarity. In addition to decarbonization, circular economy, climate change, adaptation are important, and I will close with this one remark. I think that we are doing a lot, and we are, and what we are doing is important. However, I think one aspect is missing, and it's the climate change impacts on cultural heritage. The Mediterranean basin is important with regards to cultural heritage, and we should, I think, mobilize the resources to this angle. The European Green Deal includes nothing on cultural heritage. There is one Greek initiative under the auspices of the UN General Secretary, which aims to introduce a new IPCC report, which will deal only with cultural heritage. And I urge all of us to include these aspects in what we do, in our report, in our initiatives, and in our projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Phoebe. A very good and interesting point about the cultural heritage for the next edition. In the meantime, I would like to welcome Professor Jeffrey Sax. We are in the middle of the discussion, and then it's your turn. But now I want to give the floor to Julien Letellier from UNEP MAP, another really interesting and important partner. Julien, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Simone. Thank you for inviting us to this launch event and very interesting discussion. Indeed, I am speaking on behalf of the UN Environment Programme Mediterranean Action Plan, UNEP MAP. This is a UN treaty signed 4 decades ago by the Mediterranean coastal states and the European Union. The goal is the protection of the marine and coastal environment as a contribution to the sustainable development of the entire Mediterranean region. And we are very pleased to count University of Siena, Sdgs and MED, as an official UNEP MAP partner and a member of the Mediterranean Commission on Sustainable Development, which is the multi-stakeholder advisory body gathering not only government representatives, but also stakeholders from various categories. My comment on the report. Based on a robust methodology, this report provides knowledge on SDGs trends in the Mediterranean, measuring distance between the current situation and SDG targets. And the situation is indeed alarming when we look at the red and orange points in the dashboard. As the report said, the road to achieve the SDGs is still long. By clustering SDGs around the 6 transformational areas, the report showcases how progress or failure regarding a given SDG can affect another development area. This is an integrated approach, whereas SDGs are still often addressed from a sectoral perspective that can create silos and limit the interaction. The visual representation of indicators is also a very good point. And when it comes to COVID-19, I fully concur with the assumption that despite of temporary good effect on the environment recorded during the lockdown, a decreased attention to climate and environmental issues can be also expected. We are delivering very similar messages in our strategic response to COVID-19, which is aligned with the 4 UNEP building blocks. Another added value is the spillover index to measure transboundary impact generated by one country on others. And indeed, good performance in Western Europe can impact negatively countries with lower income, compromising their performance and chances for development. In the Mediterranean region, there are important socioeconomic and demographic asymmetries, conducting to migration, but also to competition on resources. Those inequalities between countries call for addressing common transboundary issues such as food security, maritime transport, offshore activities, and water resource management. At UNEP-PAP, we are convinced that environmental diplomacy toward environmental peace shall contribute to human security and well-being in general. When the report conclusion mentions the EU Green Deal, it will be interesting to develop even more on solidarity with the South for building back better at the entire Mediterranean basin level. Sustainable consumption and production, SCP, should be at the core of building back better or building back greener toward a green renaissance in our region, considering the COVID-19 crisis as a wake-up call. In the same vein, as a response to the spillover effect, the report could pledge even more for international partnerships, in particular in those times of multilateralism crisis versus national isolation. With all my appreciation and congratulations, please allow me to raise also a few suggestions. Only a few bullet points appear for recommendation under environmental protection at the end of the report, and references to major international framework and publication are lacking. I am thinking to UNEP publication, IPBES or IPCC, for instance. The recommendations are mainly oriented on development issues, focusing on consumption and production, on the socio-economic component of sustainable development, rather than on the environment, which is at the core of UNEP-MAP mandate, and that represents a complementarity with our work. A number of those recommendations are echoing our mandate and work with our regional activity center, the UNEP-MAP component. Those recommendations could take more into account what is existing in terms of regional cooperation in our region. And I am thinking to institution, to regulation and legal instruments, to action and implementation. For instance, when it comes to common strategy for sustainability in the Mediterranean, SDGs and MED could have built on the Mediterranean strategy for sustainable development, which is a translation of the SDGs at the regional level adopted in 2016 by all the Mediterranean countries. I would have other comments, but time is limited. So, to conclude, at the global level, the annual SDSN report, which falls under the category of academia literature, complement or even precede the launch of the official UN SDG annual report. The same happened in the Mediterranean region. This year, the SDSN MED report complements our report on the state of the environment and development, the SOED, recently released as a UNEP publication prepared by our Plan Bleu Regional Activity Center. The preparation of this SOED was developed over 2 years with contribution from more than 120 authors. SOED covers a wide scope of issues from demographic trends to human development to biodiversity decline, pollution, and climate change. We should also strengthen the complementarity between our Mediterranean Sustainability Dashboard, consisting of a list of sustainable development and SCP indicators, and the SDSN, SDG index and dashboards. And in fact, we face the same issue of data availability at national level, including in international databases. So I fully support the point from Tibi Konduri calling for the importance of monitoring of indicators and those dashboards. Finally, the 2020 SDSN MED report represent an excellent reference for the participatory and indicator-based midterm evaluation of the MSSD, this Mediterranean Strategy for Sustainable Development, for which we rely on your active contribution. So let's pursue our collaboration and work together for a better monitoring and implementation of the 2030 agenda in the Mediterranean. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Julian. We are happy to contribute to the MCSD midterm evaluation. And now the floor is for Dr. Erato Markoulis, co-chair of SDSN Cyprus and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cyprus. So Dr. Markoulis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for this very important meeting. We are a very young member of the SDSN community. We launched the SDSN Cyprus last June. Because of the pandemic, unfortunately, we have not had the possibility of moving as fast as we wanted to move. But we are in a process now of building up more the membership. We have already more than 20 members. We have 6 universities which are our members right now. And we are collaborating with a lot of partners and of course in contact with the government, which we have the full support of the government in this endeavor. The report for us is extremely important. This is the second report, but this is the first time that we are able to contribute also to the report. We are very proud and honored that we have been assigned the very important transformation, the digital transformation, and I can vouch, I can commit our SDSN Cyprus that we will do everything possible to fulfill the commitments and help in this very important area. I wanted to start with the pandemic and its effects. I think this is not only for our region, it's a global pandemic. And I am very much afraid that the consequences, especially the economic consequences, all over the world are going to affect the implementation of the SDGs as it was planned. This is why we have to redouble our efforts, every country, every region, in order to gain this lost period and what will come during the next months. I think 2021 is going to be very critical for all our countries. And especially the Mediterranean, it was said earlier that it's a very vulnerable region. I think it has been affected probably more than many other regions of the world. It is heavily dependent on vulnerable sectors of the economy that have been affected by the pandemic. So as a region, we need to work very hard. And the key, as it was said by Dr. Ricabone, is collaboration. And this is an area that I want to center a little bit because we see all the indicators, we see all the efforts by different countries, but I think what is missing is the area of how we can put our efforts together, how we can use the best examples. For example, if countries have achieved certain levels, higher indicators, we have to emulate from these countries. We have to share information, how they have achieve this. And for Cyprus, which is a new SDSN, we rely on the experience of our partners in the SDSN community to see how we can speed up our efforts to achieve that. I'm not going to say much more because I think I agree with almost everyone that preceded me. I am the last one on the list. But I wanted to say a little bit about the digital transformation and how our SDSN Cyprus can contribute. SDSN Cyprus and the Cyprus Institute, on whose premises SDSN is hosted, we already have in place a very important pilot model, which is serving the Eastern Mediterranean region, but can be scaled up to cover the entire Mediterranean region. At the heart of this is Cyclone, the new high-performance computing facility of the Cyprus Institute. Like its predecessor, which was the Cytera, it is one of the most powerful civilian high-performance computing facility infrastructure in the Mediterranean, in the Eastern Mediterranean. And it is not simply an in-house computing facility, not even a national computing facility. It is a collaborative facility which provides free access to computing time and storage space to academic partners throughout the Eastern Mediterranean. So we have already the infrastructure and we are very keen in working with all of you to see how we can put into action this very important transformation, which covers, of course, every sector of the economy, including agriculture, mining, finance, media, health, education, public administration, and you name it. So we are very anxious to start working on this with your help, with your collaboration, and we look forward to future meeting like this. I think they are very important. Thank you very much.
So thank you to you, Dr. Marculli, and thank you all for your thoughts, your consideration, and suggestion. We have taken notes of all the ideas and all the recommendations for the next report, the third edition of SDSN Mediterranean report, and we are looking forward to collaborating with all of you. Now, the floor is for Professor Jeffrey Sax, President of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, with final remarks. Professor Sax, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Simone, thank you very much. And let me say a warm hello to all colleagues and friends, and congratulations and thanks to University of Siena, the Santa Chiara Lab, for the fantastic report and the great work, and all of you for the efforts at organizing a unique initiative that I think is incredibly promising and incredibly exciting. Let me make just some very brief remarks. First, thank you for this idea of leadership of the different SDSN country networks on the 6 transformations. I think the 6 transformations are an exciting and potentially a very important way to view the SDG challenge. Because what we're really saying in the 6 transformations is we need deep and long-term change, long-term meaning at the scale beyond the political cycle, change at the scale of 20, 30, 40 years. And a lot of our work, I think, is setting that direction and emphasizing the fundamental changes that will need to be made for building the future that we want. We see that very clearly in the case of energy, for example, and the work that Phoebe is leading on the energy transformation and the pathways to get to net zero by 2050. But I would say that every one of the 6 transformations in education and innovation, in the health and well-being, in the industrial transformation, in sustainable land use, in sustainable cities, and in the digital transformation should be viewed at this 10 to 30 year perspective to appreciate how deep is the change that we're really aiming for, and therefore how different it is from a normal political business cycle, a normal policy cycle. It's not a short-term initiative. It's not a one-time investment to address a problem or to patch up a problem. It is aiming to entrain our business, political, academic, and civil society sectors of broad society in the same direction, and to help create a vision of where we want to be, and then to create a process of how to get there. And in this regard, it's, to my mind, a different kind of policy making and a different kind of politics, and an exciting prospect if we can really help to bring it about, because it is lengthening the time horizons, deepening the objectives, looking more holistically, looking at technological transformations, really a more imaginative and creative process than normal policy making. So that's the first point I want to emphasize. And please, let's think about ways to support each of these national networks in their championing of one of the transformations. And let's be meeting a lot this coming year to make this real. Just as Arato told us about the digital initiatives in Cyprus, which are very, very exciting. That's so essential, the digital revolution, that let's have some meetings about that and try to scope out this deep, transformative, longer-term vision and how to get there. Second point that for me is thrilling and basic, and very much in line with what Julian just said as well. This is truly Mediterranean-wide, and that's exciting because these regions are really different. The European, North Africa, Eastern Mediterranean regions face different challenges. The indicators make this very clear, but it is one integrated region. For the Mediterranean to be healthy, we need healthful societies all around the Mediterranean. And of course, all of the countries share the vulnerabilities to the ecological changes, to the pollution, the overfishing, the direct damages taking place in the Mediterranean Sea itself, and also the benefits of interconnection. When it comes to renewable energy systems, for example, we really want to interconnect North Africa with Europe, as we've talked about for decades. But now, as energy transformation is truly underway, we need to turn those long-held ideas into practical realities. So I would like to encourage and emphasize every way that we can bring more colleagues from North Africa and from the Middle Eastern, East Mediterranean countries, Syria, Jordan, Israel, Egypt, Palestine, into these active discussions with us. Because I think that this is really crucial, and I don't think they're as deeply institutionalized as they should be. Budgets tend to stop at the European boundary, more or less, except in very notable programs like Angelo's Prima program, which is designed specifically for the Mediterranean-wide reach. And we want more of that, and we want each of the areas of the European Green Deal to include a Mediterranean component that doesn't only stop in Southern Europe, but includes the Eastern Mediterranean and North Africa as well. So I'm very excited about that, and any ways in the coming year that we can deepen our consultations so that all of the countries that are in this report are also at the now virtual table. We'll do it online, no doubt, but at the virtual table will be a big plus, and I think help us to move ahead. And I firmly believe that also, even in conflict zone areas like Libya, or in contested spaces like Israel and Palestine, if we're thinking about practical issues of climate, food production, energy systems, and so forth, we can get to practical answers that move beyond political bottlenecks right now. I know it's not so easy, but I think that it's probably the most important way to do that, which is to focus on common interests and therefore practical solutions. The third point that I would emphasize is how crucial is the European Green Deal right now. It is, in my view, the best we have in the world of a transformation agenda that really looks at transformation in depth, in scope, in holism, and in time dimension. It's really well done. As I like to say, it's totally bureaucratic, but in the Weberian rational bureaucratic mold. In other words, it's really thinking through systematic processes to make change in the best of the bureaucratic sense. Who has responsibility? Who needs to do what? What are the timelines? What are the processes? But it's not a plan. It's a process right now. The European Green Deal is not a plan. I want us to help fill in the plans at the country level, at the regional level, what really to do, because what the European Green Deal is a set of timelines, milestones in an absolutely desirable, holistic approach, but it doesn't have underneath it the what to do in detail. And Europe still too much then leaves the what to do at the country level rather than really regional investment strategies. Though that's getting better, it's still not enough in my view. We need regional energy system. We need regional food production, distribution, use, management system. We definitely need regional systems for the ecology of the region, for the health of the Mediterranean Sea, and so forth. So I think the European Green Deal is a huge plus, and it is already having its global diplomatic effect. Definitely Europe brought the East Asian countries into the recent announcements of China net climate neutrality by 2060, Japan under new Prime Minister Suga announcing very quickly upon his new prime ministership climate neutrality by 2050, Korea the same. So we really have a lot of partners, and once we pry Trump's fingers from his Oval Office desk and carry that man out of his office, we're going to have a good president in the United States, and there will be a U.S. Green Deal in effect to join this. So I think we're going to have a lot of opportunity diplomatically for the European Green Deal to be applied first in the European countries, the 27. I hope we can find ways to extend this to North Africa and the Eastern Mediterranean, because it's a framework, not only European policy, but a very well-designed framework, and then as part of global diplomacy. And I'll just end at that point to say that 2021 is potentially shaping up as a breakthrough year. I don't think that's just a cliche. I think it's actually real. This has been a very, very tough year with COVID, with Trump, with just an extraordinarily difficult year. 2021 should be much better. Our governments by then first should figure out how to contain this pandemic. They've not quite done so, unfortunately. That's why the second wave is so terrible. But the knowledge of what to do is much better. There will be vaccines coming, which will help, probably in mass use by the second half of 2021, and partial use before then. That will help. There will be President Biden. That will help a lot because the madness from the United States was the greatest distraction to global policy making in the world in recent years. It just stopped logical thinking in the G20 and in so many other processes. That will improve dramatically. And colleagues, we have at least 3 major global events next year that we should be present at in a very active way. The first is COP15 of the Convention on Biological Diversity in Kunming, China in May, which should set ground rules for biodiversity conservation for years ahead. The second is the World Food System Summit, called by the UN and the Secretary General in the fall. Very important opportunity for us. And if the SDSN Europe and SDSN Mediterranean works closely with FAO, WFP, the Rome-based institutions, I think we can, and all of the initiatives that we have with Barilla and the food industry and Regeneration 2030 with Andrea Illy, we really can contribute to the World Food Summit in an important way. And then, of course, we have COP26 in Glasgow in November, which needs to be the time in which every country has committed to decarbonization by mid-century, so that there finally is the global understanding and orientation of how to get to net zero in a timely way. This is all going to be on the agenda. I think we have a big leadership role to play because of your leadership and because of Europe's unique leadership role in the global agenda. And this I find very promising. So let me conclude where I started with great thanks for a wonderful report and a wonderful initiative. Thanks to Angelo for your leadership on all of this. It's a tremendous contribution and a very exciting one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sax. I would ask to Professor Angelo Riccaboni to a final remark.
Okay, thank you, Simone. Thanks, everybody. I thank Riccardo for his effective presentation, the representatives of SDSN for their remarks. We will take notice of it, but also our friends from UFM, Union for the Mediterranean. I think that is very important, this cooperation between SDSN Med, SDSN in general, and UFM. I know that Jeffrey really shared this view, and he's very positive in this link between SDSN and UFM. And I think we will be able, with this cooperation, to promote transformations and changes that are needed in the Mediterranean. I also thank UNEP for their remarks, and I'm sure that the cooperation with them also will be effective. Just a few seconds to say, to answer to Jeffrey. I completely agree that we should work in order to make the initiatives by Europe, considering also the Mediterranean area, because challenges do not know borders. So we should push, or we should convince Europe that the European Green Deal or initiatives related to sustainability should also have an African and Mediterranean scope, because if there are problems a few kilometers from France, they will affect also France or Italy or Spain, all of them. So I think this is a very important point. The second point is that, as you said, we need to involve more and more researchers and civil society from the South and the East. So this year, it was the first year that the report was made according to the hubs idea, to have 6 hubs for the 6 transformations. But the next step will be to associate to each hub also one institution from the South and the East. So to have, for each transformation, 2 research and innovation references, one from the North and one from the South. So this is an example of the principle of equal footing, which is very, very important to promote sustainability. So UFM is a clear example of the principle of equal footing, and we want to go ahead according to this line, because only together we can make it. So I would like to stop here. Thanks a lot, Jeffrey, for your inspiration and for your leadership. We are very pleased to contribute to the SDSN network initiatives, and we look forward to the next event and the next activity. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks again. I ask all of you to turn on your cameras for the final readings. I want to thank you all very much for your intervention, your contribution, your thoughts. We are happy to collaborate with you all for the new edition of the report. I would like also to thank SDSN Italia, Sabina Ratti, and the colleagues from SDSN Italia for the interesting consideration on this report, and we are excited to start to collaborating with all of you for the new edition of the 2021. So thank you very much again. I stop here, and we hope to give a good contribution for the transformation of the Mediterranean area.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christoph.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to all of you. Wonderful.
Bye.